Happy 420.
I'm Kai.
And I'm Queen Reefer.
And you're watching
Stone Cold Murder.
Just a PSA, if you have any information to help solve a crime, you can go to crimestoppers.com to report any information anonymously.
This podcast contains material that might not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Stone Cold Murder. I don't remember season 3? 4?
4. He said 4.
Let me redo that.
Yes.
Welcome Shit. Welcome back to Stone Cold Murder, season 4, episode 3. I don't remember. Yeah, 3, right? 3.
It says episode 3 right there.
Bitch. All right, welcome back to the Stone Cold Murder Lab. She's scratching her ear. Yeah. Welcome back to Stone Cold Murder, season 4, episode 3.
Finally!
Is this cauliflower? Oh, that's so tiny. I didn't know it was this tiny. Meow, 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 meow. As you know, I don't do good without food.
Oh, me either. I'll get hangry so quick. But I'm saving it for the sushi.
Why? Because you said you didn't eat all day.
Well, I ate breakfast,
Oh.
but nothing since breakfast.
I think I could eat this whole pizza right now. What?
You said, the flavors are melting on my tongue.
The flavors are melting on my tongue.
Pizza.
Our story starts out on November 4th, 2018. Police are called to a home in Cummings, Georgia. I was waiting for it. Hell yeah, brother. So the night before, on November 3rd, homeowners hosted a birthday party with drinks, festivities, and it ended up with their guests staying over, which is the proper thing to do. No drinking and driving, please.
Responsibility.
Yeah, we love that. We love
responsibilities. What is that from? Got a lot of responsibilities. Is that Rugrats?
I think you're right. I've had lots of responsibilities.
Something like that, right? Yeah, and it's, yeah, okay. I think it's Rugrats.
I think you're right. Matt will find the clip, maybe.
Too old? Yeah, I got responsibilities now.
Responsibilities?
That means I'm not allowed to have fun anymore for the rest of my life.
So it was a nice, lighthearted evening for everyone. But the next morning would take a turn for the worst when an aunt who lived at that home discovered someone laying face down in the backyard. The homeowner went outside and moved the leg of the body and stated she was dead. He said that he could tell rigor mortis had already set in and that everybody should call the police. Or not everybody, but someone. But rigor mortis can set in within 2 hours of someone passing, in case you didn't know. So police arrived and found 40-year-old Tamala Horsford laying face down in the grass. Deputies on scene seemed very confused by her body position. Tamala was face down, like I said, flat, face first, and she was directly underneath a balcony that was the second story of the house.
Well, sorry. She fell off.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay.
The position seemed even more odd to the homeowner and her boyfriend because they insisted both of her hands were by her side, palms up, when they called 911. So basically just like laying like that, which is a very odd position to be found in. They said it's the weirdest thing. She was face down, but her arms were like, she said, face planted is the best way she could describe it. So looked like she just fell right forward and couldn't get up, basically. As investigators looked over the crime scene, they came up with a theory that Tamala got drunk at the party and fell from the balcony after everybody had went to sleep. According to the toxicology report, her blood alcohol level was 0.238, so nearly 3 times the legal limit.
Damn.
Yeah. And she had traces of marijuana and alprazolam, which is an anxiety medication in her system, and she was not prescribed the anxiety prescription. The cause of death was determined to be blunt force injuries, which I guess could happen if you fell from a balcony, but it was a 2-story balcony too.
Yeah, but if you hit hard enough.
If you hit the right spot.
You know what I think about? Every time I think about a drunk person falling face first.
I do know exactly
what I'm talking about. One time we went downtown for New Year's and we were walking and this girl came out of this bar shit-faced in like heels, started walking down the stairs and just face planted right on the concrete. And like I can still vividly remember the sound of her skull hitting the ground.
Cracking open.
Yeah.
Ugh. Very loud.
So, I mean, that was only a few steps up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. Anything can happen, especially if you hit your head right. So, this theory did throw up a bunch of red flags for people who knew Tamla and the people who were just hearing the story. From the start, Tamla's family and friends expressed concerns about how authorities handled the investigation. Forsyth County deputies repeatedly told them it would make sense once they had access to all the reports. Now you may say, Kai, this seems pretty cut and dry case to me. People can fall from a balcony and hit their head and die and da-da-da-da. But y'all should know by now that this is anything but just a normal cut and dry case if we're talking about it here. So let's retrace Tamala's last day and see why this didn't sit right with everybody.
Ooh.
But first...
Okay, 1 second. But the delivery on that was so good, Queen.
Thank you. Oh.
Hell
Thank
yeah,
you.
brother.
And that's where we'll take our first smoke break. And we're back from our smoke break.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Before our smoke break, I was talking about how investigators ruled Tamla's death as just an accidental death, but that it actually did not sit right with a lot of people tuning into the case. So we're going to find out why. So Tamla arrives at the home at 10 p.m. on November 3rd. Now, before I get into the story, things might get just slightly confusing because a lot of these names were redacted just because of the way the story was. So I apologize for just calling these people the homeowners or friends, but I can't say their names on here, so leaving it at that.
You can't what?
Say their names on here.
Oh.
So we're leaving it at
Homer Simpson.
Homeowners and friends and people. So like we said, Tamla was invited to the adult sleepover with some of the moms from her child's football team. Tamla was a mother of 5 and just ready to kick back and enjoy her evening with her friends. Partygoers drank, watched football, and played card games, I guess Cards Against Humanity, throughout the night. Besides the other moms, there were 3 men who attended the party as well, and they were just partners of the other people that were there. As the night winded down to an end, everybody was intentionally supposed to sleep over at the house, but some people ended up leaving. So as people were heading out or getting ready to crash out for the night, Tamla thought maybe I'd just go have one more cigarette before laying down. So at 1:47 a.m., Tamla walked the last guest to the front door. She gave her a hug and then went back out to the backyard to smoke. The homeowners have an alarm, so it was confirmed that the front door was open at 1:47 a.m. But not only that, 7 minutes before at 1:40 a.m., the door leading to the garage was open and never closed. So that's interesting. And the man picking up his wife that Tamla supposedly walked to the door and gave a hug said his wife came to the door alone and not with Tamla. So there already we have a very interesting discrepancy between the lady who attended the party and her husband who was there to pick her up.
But what if they just couldn't see him? Maybe she just opened a door, was kind of behind it.
Which could definitely be the case.
But also, I feel like if you're like letting out guests, you don't kind of just like hide behind the door.
Right.
You know?
It wasn't her house either.
Yeah.
So all of it's just interesting.
Tamala. Got some explaining to do.
At 1:57, the back door was open and never shut until Tamla's body was found the next day. So we have 2 doors that were open and never shut. The garage door, the back door. So when the initial investigation was done, they had already treated this like it was just an accident. So they didn't take a lot of pictures, nor did they take the steps that you normally would to investigate a homicide case. Only 5 photos were taken in total. 5. Which is not even common for just an accidental death. Usually they take a lot more than that.
Do you know how many on average?
I saw like 20 to like 30 and just a normal regular death investigation, even if it's not a homicide. This one was like, I don't know, the pictures were odd to me. They're like staged really strange from like a weird perspective, in my opinion.
Weird.
Yeah, like one of the pictures I'm thinking of is the body, but they're like from the garden, like with the camera in the grass, and it's like shooting that way, so you could see the full body, but it's like oddly artistic for no reason, you know?
Yeah, they're like trying to get like depth and dimension in the photo. It's like
right, and they only took 5 of them, mind you, so that was one of them. And you're like, I see toes and grass, and then like the elongated body.
That's weird.
Odd. So yeah, strange. And it was eventually determined that she had fallen from the 2nd-story building or balcony. But everyone, even the lead detective, Michael Christian, said that the position that the body was in does not appear that she had fallen directly from the balcony, rather ground level. So in the picture that they had, they took a picture of like the mulch. So imagine a back porch, mulch, and then grass, like how normal. And there was like 2 little indents in the mulch that looked like it, like your foot had been dragged over it, and then her body was right there, like very close to the mulch. So if you're looking up, the balcony is almost directly above the body. If your body was to fall off of the balcony, you would go out instead of directly under.
Yeah.
So it already looked very strange.
Okay.
So deputies on the scene were very confused by the body position, and one of the officers said, if you go to brace yourself with your left hand and there's nothing to brace yourself with, you would kind of spin. And that's how he thought the body should have landed instead of face down. So like a spin, like that type of a movement opposed to just face
But
first.
also, didn't it say that Tamala moved the body a little bit?
Tamla is the deceased person.
Who was the
homeowner?
Yeah,
he like moved her foot.
So maybe
said,
that.
Yeah.
I mean, could have that made a difference? Maybe in the way she was placed or laid out.
Yes and no. Because I don't think he's like twisting the full body to like change. He just kind of like tried to pick it up and put it down. There is a discrepancy with one of the hands though, because they said they thought it was face up and one of the hands was like twisted and distorted a little bit, and that's attributed to someone like picking up the hand and trying to check for a pulse and not putting it back in the same position. So that is something that can happen. But I think they're more talking about the fact that it looked like she just face planted opposed to falling from a height trying to like brace yourself. You know, usually maybe you would land like this, or, one hand
Unless
trying to.
I like to play devil's advocate on
Yeah,
this, just
sure.
just because I like
Might as
whatever.
well.
But I mean, it could be possible that someone could be so drunk that they don't even know they're falling off a balcony, so you don't go to brace yourself.
And she was 3 times over the limit, so. And she had Xanax in her system, which she wasn't prescribed, so perhaps not knowing the side effects of taking it with alcohol.
Yeah.
So.
Because, like, that could be possible. Like, normal state, you would brace yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're so, like, out of it that you don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. You never know. They described it as a nosedive into the ground. So it looked like she didn't try and brace herself at all, according to them. So Tamla was face down, flat, face first, completely like underneath the balcony. And the position that she was in, like I said, everybody thought was odd. Even the homeowner and her boyfriend insisted that both of her hands, like I said, were by her side when they called 911. The homeowner said it's the weirdest thing. She was face down, but her arms were like she had just face planted. Is the best way I could describe it. So I think everybody was in agreement. It didn't look like she knew she was falling, at least.
Yeah.
So
my theory could maybe be right.
Yes.
But, like you said, we don't do cut and dry cases here.
We do not.
This is probably not the case.
So the GBI, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, officers asked Tamla. So the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigations, one of the officers asked if Tamla's arms were down by her side. The homeowner said, yeah, by her side, palms up. The crime scene photos show her left arm is actually off to the side and is bent, and her palm is face down with her fingers curled under. Like a weird position.
Mm-hmm.
One of the investigators attributes the change in position to someone on the scene checking for a pulse and not remembering doing it and not paying attention enough to put the body in the position it was found in. So, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office did call all the people who attended the party back to the house shortly after the 911 call was made, just to ask them any questions, see what went down, see if they could retrace what happened to Tamla. And everybody said that the party was planned to be a sleepover to celebrate one of the homeowner's birthdays, but many left early, which I found interesting. While getting statements, police did ask for photos and videos reference to the party that night, but they didn't ask to take any of the devices to download the data, nor did the deputies ever subpoena their phones for records. So they just kind of said, can we have some photos? But they didn't take anybody's cell phone, didn't take any communications that had happened between any of the party goers leading up to the party or after, which is something you should probably do when there's someone who died, especially at just random like that, you know? So this didn't happen until GBI got involved, and they finally did take away their devices and download text messages. But by that time, records show that at least 2 people had gotten new phones, and detectives learned text messages and pictures on some people's devices had been deleted and were gone. So, yeah.
These cases are so freaking frustrating because it's like if they would have like done a little bit more, you could have like an outcome.
Yeah. And it just comes down to a lot of things aren't as just cut and dry as you think they are. You know, like we should always just do the proper procedures every single time to make sure that in case something happens, you know, we're not gonna be caught with our thumb up our ass and have nothing to show for it.
Like the O.J. Simpson case, bro.
O.J. Simpson. Yeah, there was a case we did last season. think it was episode 9. I can't remember. RJ Lockwood, I think is what it was. And he was shot in his apartment, and they ruled it as an accidental overdose. And they had to come back and try and figure out what had happened. And it's like, what do you do at this point? Like,
An accidental overdose while he was shot?
yeah. Or like the episode, what was
Brother.
it? Our first episode that we talked about where they burnt the bed.
Oh.
They burned the whole ass bed. Like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Why, like,
I feel like they shouldn't be able to do any of this shit until a full, what's the word I'm looking for?
investigation?
No. Where they look at the body.
Oh,
Autopsy. A full autopsy report is done.
Yeah.
Don't touch anything. Take pictures. Take phones.
Leave it.
And leave it until an
Mhm.
autopsy comes back if it was natural causes or something different.
Yeah. I mean, that really should be the procedure, but
Because even if it looks like a natural thing, they should still have to do all of these procedures, treating it as maybe a potential homicide.
yeah. And with as many deaths as there are, and we've only talked about just 3 just now, imagine how many more are overlooked just because either A, tired, it looks like a pretty cut and dry case, boys, like, let's just wrap it up, or they don't feel like investigating it because RJ Lockwood, they said he had tattoos and piercings and he looked like a ruffian, so they expected it to be just an overdose. Like, profiling people for no reason, like that's just bullshit. Just do the fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just do it. But obviously there was an autopsy report done by GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, but the family also had an independent one performed. Both the medical examiner's reports and the independent autopsy listed that the cause of her death as blunt force injuries, which could be attributed to a fall, of course. Dr. Shaker was the private one that was hired, the independent medical examiner. They examined Tamala's body, and after GBI said that her wrist was dislocated, they actually found that it was a fracture in this other report. And then it was actually sticking out of one of her wrists.
Oh,
Even in the picture, you could see it. And they just said it was dislocated in the original autopsy, which is weird. The injury was significant because there was very little blood found at the scene, raising questions about where the injury occurred and whether it happened before or after her death. There was just a little tiny bit of blood found on Tamala's sleeve, and it was the opposite side of her injury. Not on the side that she had her bone sticking out of her wrist.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a bone break where it's protruding out of my skin, but I'm assuming you're bleeding more than just a little. Maybe I'm wrong. Shaker does think that the injury was postpartum or after death. So another discrepancy in the autopsy report, the GBI listed a fracture in her spine, but Shaker said that it wasn't a fracture at all. Just some like bruised portions to the bone, and it wasn't fractured. So they missed the fractured wrist and misdiagnosed a fractured spine, which is very interesting.
Someone needs a different job.
Seems like it. But to Shaker, this was not the most important discrepancy. He said it's actually what GBI did not find opposed to what they did find. He said there's no evidence of any significant injuries to the skull or the other bones besides the wrist fracture. So, yeah, in his report, Shaker wrote, the absence of bruising to broken bones in her skull raises the flag to the cause of death as falling from the second-story building because they assumed it was from her hitting her head.
Yeah.
But he's proposing that because there's no bruising, it happened after death, which is interesting. So basically, the injury that they're trying to attribute to Tamla's death may have not been her cause of death after all. And this would change the trajectory of this case significantly, obviously. So he didn't really attribute anything to why they said she had broken spine, or fractured spine, I mean. Not a broken, but fractured spine. So I'm not really sure what they saw to assume that, other than it was bruised. But you would think that, like, a fracture you would be able to tell, right?
Well,
I don't know. It throws me off.
I feel like you should have to be able to tell if you're doing that as a job.
I would think.
Right?
Yeah. And the fact that they missed one and then did the wrong one for the other is just like, why?
Why?
But why?
Yeah, that's weird.
It is weird. On top of the autopsy being a little wacky and off from one to the other, people were also criticizing the police department for another reason. So we need to get into the meat of Forsyth County because it has a history, and it's not a good history.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And unfortunately, even if things seem that like they've gotten better, there are things that are embedded in history, in people's minds, in people's hearts. And the people that live in these places don't easily drop these mindsets. And racism is very rooted in some of these places. And unfortunately, it's normal in some places still today. It's taught, it's learned, and it's intentional in most cases. Forsyth County's racist roots can be tracked all the way back to 1912. And this is when a series of crimes and rapes were committed within residents of the Forsyth County. And they started to accuse pretty much any black man that was living there of these crimes without even investigating. Due to these allegations, these men were being chased down by mobs and then lynched without any trial, without questioning, without anything. And this had a domino effect and started a month-long campaign of terror known as whitecapping, which resulted in pretty much the expulsion of nearly every black resident in the county. So wiped them either out by lynching or just chasing them down. Yeah. An estimated 98% of black residents left the county due to the night rider threats or were murdered. Many black property owners were forced to sell their lands at a loss, and renters and sharecroppers were left to seek safer places because they just weren't safe living there anymore. The anti-black campaign was widespread across Appalachian Georgia, and with Forsyth being the third county to expel its black population completely after Town and Union. After Forsyth, the Night Riders attempted to expel black residents from Dawson and Hall counties, but they were eventually stopped when Hall County Sheriff arrested 11 of the Night Riders. But still to this day, Forsyth County has a reputation of being a hostile place for black people to visit and live in. So it's not surprising at all that people would be a little bit concerned that Tamla's case was handled the way it was. Tamala was the only black person at this party, and unfortunately the only one that turned up dead under seemingly very strange circumstances. Her family said they believed that this impacted the way deputies viewed the scene because she was black. The lead investigator on the case, Michael Christian, is accused of calling Tamala porch lady and making a derogatory racist remark against her while investigating. But Christian said his comments were taken out of context, and the other deputies involved denied having been offended by the accusations. So, I mean, the deputies aren't offended.
Just because you're not offended doesn't make it not offensive.
Right. If my mom was murdered and was deceased on the ground and the police officer was referring to her as porch lady, I'd be pissed. It just shows that you don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could say something a little bit better. All things considering, the officers who responded did have connections with some of the people who lived inside the house or were at the party. The man who spoke with police on the 911 phone call was a former probation officer who at the time worked for Forsyth County's court system. On the body cam audio, you can hear one of the deputies walking another deputy through the different rooms in the crime scene or in the house, and different people at the scene are seen on the camera. He mentions, "We've got some mutual friends together. I've known him for a while. We're friends."
Interesting.
Yeah. You can also hear another woman from the party express concerns about her getting her new job on time. And then after explaining where she works, one of the deputies says, "Nah, you're good because your boss is my wife."
How big is this town? Do you know?
I do not know.
Because it could be one of those like things where it's like so small you kind of know everybody. Playing the devil's advocate.
Yeah. Right. Which I feel like makes it maybe worse.
Yeah.
Because...
What is the county? Foreskin?
Foreskin County, Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I don't think it's that
First
small.
Yeah.
Not small enough to be that close to everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's mainly where I was getting at.
Yeah. The GBI also caught a few of the partygoers in what appears to be a series of lies. One woman who's diagnosed with severe anxiety told police that her medication made it impossible for her to lie, and that she is so dependent on her anxiety medication, she wore a necklace with that knockoff Xanax in it that we talked about earlier. She told investigators she understood it was a controlled substance and she would never share it with anyone ever. Yet, one of the GBI officers subpoenaed one of the phones. Oh.
Sorry, I'm just like...
She would never, ever, ever
Why
share.
would you... Why? Why would you say that?
Because she didn't want to be implicated in a crime. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I would never do that. And
I would
what
never.
else did she say that? I would never... I would never lie.
My Xanax makes me never to be able to lie.
Did I ask you? Like, are you lying?
My Xanax won't allow it.
And I'm not
I
the
roll.
plug.
So, yeah, she never shared with anybody. Yet, once the GBI ended up subpoenaing some of the phones, and they were starting to read through some of the text messages, they found evidence that the woman had indeed shared some type of medication at least twice with her friends prior to the party, and with one friend the day of Tamala's death. And Tamala obviously was not prescribed this medication, but it was found in her system.
Yeah,
so,
but she could never lie.
right.
Her-
Either she
her
shared
medicine.
it or Tamala just took it, which I'm sure she would play off of that. But the fact
you
that
said it
multiple
was
people,
around her neck or something?
that's what she said, in the necklace around her neck or something.
Okay, so say that is true and Tamala stole it. Like, that's not plausible.
It's not. It's a lie.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
her medicine will never allow her to
She
lie.
can't. She could never
Okay,
ever.
homegirl.
When confronted, the woman admitted it was true. She had shared her prescription.
So you did lie, Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia. What if that was actually your name? But she insisted she only shared her drugs because she knew the women well. The women well. So
But you
she's like,
still lied, bitch.
she said, "I did not know Tamala." But like I said, Tamla had the Xanax in her system the night she died, so who knows why? Patricia.
She stole it.
Yeah, which maybe this crazy lady would say that, but I'm pretty sure you gave it to her or roofied her, which is even worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hopefully you gave it to her and she wanted to take it. You know what I mean? Hopefully it wasn't like put in a drink.
Fucking Patrish, man.
GBI closed the case on February 20th, 2019. And unfortunately, due to the handling of this case, I'm not sure much can actually be done to reopen this case unless someone comes forward and says what happened that night. I do know, however, this is a tragic case, and I believe wholeheartedly that someone does know what happened to her that night. Tamala was 40 at the time of her death and left behind 5 children and a loving husband. What are your thoughts on the case?
I don't like it.
I don't like it. No, it's the worst.
Yeah. I just feel like it's just so frustrating because I feel like a lot of these cases could potentially be solved if, like we said, the job was just done right at the beginning. Because if they did take people's phones away from the start, then maybe they have more information. But,
Yeah.
you know, no, 2 people got new phones and messages and pictures were deleted. Like,
Right.
how do they know messages and pictures were deleted?
I don't know.
And can't you go to, like, the phone network and
I
get...
think you have to have a search warrant.
So get a search warrant, bitch.
Right? I don't think they wanted to. I think it's relatively clear in this case that they didn't really want to investigate further than what they did. Because they had to get a lawyer, they had to get another separate autopsy done, they had to get celebrities in on it to try and push for this to get reopened, and then they reopened it and we're like, yeah, no, there's nothing here. Really, she just fell off the balcony. I don't know. We've had many parties where we've had friends stay over. If one of our friends just fell out of the second story and died, I don't think any of us would be as nonchalant as these people are. I mean, just think about it that way. That's insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's never a party that I've thrown that I'd be like, it's a potential someone could die.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Someone could just fall out off the balcony and just, I don't know what happened. She died.
Yeah. And even, like, if there was someone at our party that we didn't necessarily know that well, like, it would still be tragic.
Right.
I wouldn't act nonchalant if someone died at a party that I didn't really know too much, you know?
No. It's all just so strange. It's weird.
Well, I think the cops fucked up.
As they do in a lot of cases. What, did they work for the LAPD or what?
I'm going to become president. I'm going to sign an executive order that no matter what
66.
state or county you're in, you have to follow a certain procedure. And if the cops don't or anyone doesn't, you're arrested for life.
And I think that's the issue with a lot of things is people, and not just police officers, but in the system as a whole, are not held accountable for the things that they do. And they get away with a lot because of ranking or being who they are, or having a father who they are, whatever have you, you know. And therein lies the problem with a lot of stuff is if you can't really hold these people also responsible, what's the point? Because
there's no risk factor for a lot of these places.
Right. You have things like the West Memphis 3 case where you arrested 3 boys who have nothing to do with it and you just have a vendetta against someone and you want them in jail. So they're going to be in jail for 18 years. 18 whole years. those police officers that arrested those boys never got anything happen to them, even though 3 people spent 18 years in jail on death row. Well, one of them spent it on death row.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Like, it's crazy.
And they don't really care if they mess up or gamble with someone's life because there's no risk factor in it for them. They're like, oh, whatever.
Boo.
You know?
We hate it.
Boo. You whore.
Mm-hmm. Fucking horse.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. Have anything else to add?
No.
No.
But next time I will save all my theories for the end.
For the end.
The end is near.
Yeah, it is near. It's right now. Because until next time, stay high.
Stay safe.
And thank you for watching.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when the next episode drops. Follow Stone Cold Murder and the host's socials. The link will be in the description below. And until next time, stay high, stay safe, and thanks for watching.